The Mines, quite possibly the best game mode in the entire game. You get tons of rewards like crystals, rainbow gems, and LB stones. You get to use units you don't own yourself because of the friend system. By the way, this should really be in every solo piece of content. You also get to grind for some of the best equips the entire game has to offer. I'm talking about some real fan favorites here, like B3 Claw, Despair Vine, and so much more. Really, the only two negatives I can think of for this game mode is one, the drop rates for equips are abysmal, and to devs tend to forget this game mode even exists, at least on the global side of the game. JP gets mines like every other month. Global, we don't get mines for like 7 to 8 months. But since it's finally returned to global, I get to answer a question I have been having for quite some time, which revolves around the boss character some of you may know of, some of you may love, some of you may hate, which is Groitz. And it's pretty much, is Groitz actually good in mines? And to be more specific, is he one of the best in mines? Some of you that are new may not know that there are some MVPs when it comes to the mines. Units like Haruto, Mako, Juno, Sistina, Baptiste, and one of the biggest ones out there, Joker Celia, aka the queen of the mines. Or should I say, the jester of the mines.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And it just so happens that the man Groitz shares a lot of similarities to that of Joker Celia. The biggest one being that they are both status scaling damage dealers. Joker Celia gains more damage based on how many enemies she has frozen during the quest, whereas Groitz gains more damage based on the number of enemies he has poisoned during the quest. On most of the content in the game, this mechanic is actually pretty bad, since status effects are so inconsistent when it comes to the metagame of Grand Summoners, and there's usually not enough instances for you to max out their damage. These guys take 10 stacks of poison or 10 stacks of freeze in order to capitalize on their damage, which maxes out at 300%. Since the mine revolves around each level having a few different stages in them, it means that these characters get to shine a lot more. There's a lot of enemies in these stages. That translates to you being able to freeze a lot more or poison a lot more, which then translates into you getting even more damage. So it would seem the man Groitz would be a top tier mines unit, right? I mean, he's literally just like Joker Celia. He has all the boxes checked off. High damaging multipliers on his attacks. He's also a boss character, which just allows him to have access to even more damage. And his slots aren't that bad. So he's good, right? This character is a huge disappointment when it comes to the mines. Which is weird, since this should be the game mode he excels at. Don't get me wrong, this man can do some serious damage, like some astronomical levels of damage. But what you have to do to get there really isn't worth it half the time. As mentioned before, you have to poison enemies in order for you to keep scaling your damage, which sounds simple enough, except Groitz kinda sucks at this. Even though this character's entire gimmick is poison, he only has 2 attacks in his whole kit that allows him to do it. One of them being his skill in his human form that has a 50% chance to poison, and his other being his skill in his boss form, which has a 100% chance to poison. Since his poison is tied to his skills, that means this isn't as spammable as you might think, especially since his skill is on an 11-second cooldown. So unless you're running skill CT, you can't really have this up all the time, as if this was an art like how it is with Joker Celia. Now, this isn't that bad because in the mines you do a lot of stage transitioning. Every single time you do stage transition, you refresh your cooldowns on your skills. But this causes another issue to arise. If you are wasting time stage transitioning, and you're wasting time using your skill in your human form to get poisons off, well, you forgot about the other part of this character, which is his revelation form, aka his boss form. Not only does he need to be in his boss form, if we want him to hit his hardest, we need him to get his mega art charged as well, which requires us to use his skill in his boss forms in order for him to do it. Don't use his mega skill though. His mega skill doesn't contribute to his mega art, which is so stupid, but yeah, mega skill doesn't do it, but his 3 skills that take up his equipment slots do it. If that's the case, why not just rush into the boss form and then spam his poison skill so we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, one being constantly able to poison and the other being able to charge up his mega art. I mean, that seems logical, but the problem is his poison skill has an even longer cooldown at 18 seconds, and these skills don't get refreshed during each stage transition. This is where this unit completely fails me, since in order for me to get the most out of him, I need to poison, but in order for me to use his spammable poison skill, I need to kind of stay in his human form, since it is the fastest and it also has the lowest cooldown. But if I do this, it means I have a possibility of losing out on the mega art, which then means it's a possibility that I fail the quest because I won't have enough damage. So now I have to make a decision. Is it worth to go for more poison, or judges say screw the extra damage and rush for the Mega Art so I can at least deal some solid burst damage. Now, I already know what some of you guys are going to say. OP, why not throw poison equips onto him? That way, he'll have more chances to poison, meaning that you can get more stacks faster. That is a pretty good idea. However, Grand Summoners said no. They decided to make Groitz a balanced unit. The only way Groitz is able to stack poison is if the unit himself poisons. And this just makes no sense to me. The more and more I use Groitz, the more and more I realize, and I can confidently say, his kit wasn't too well thought out, and he would probably be a better unit overall if he just didn't have this boss form. Joker Celia pretty much has the same exact philosophy behind her, and she works great, able to constantly spam her art that allows you to freeze the enemy on top of also giving your team arts. And guess what? When you're ready to do your burst damage, you don't have to go into a boss form and then build up art gauge in a different way than any other part of the game. No siree, you just have to press your true art button. No extra effort needed, no extra time wasted. Just go into your true art and you're gonna deal some insane damage. Literally, Joker Celia by herself with her stacking and everything else, she is so consistent that she is able to wipe out bosses by herself on some of the highest floors in the mines. Oh, and not to mention too, her true art is technically more versatile and better in a team than Groitz's Mega Art. Groitz's Mega Art just increases the damage the enemy takes by 50%, while Joker Celia reduces the enemy's water, freeze, and crit resist. So yeah, she's enabling your team to do a lot more than that of just Groitz. So now we're here. Unfortunately, Groitz takes a little too much work for me. If I didn't have to work as hard to get this unit going, I would probably like him. And if he was a little faster, because good lord, this guy's animations take actual years to come out, I would probably like him, and I would say that he would be a better mines unit. But until we get an animation buff to this guy or something else, I would just say he's not really worth it. Is he necessarily bad? Not really. I think he still has potential to do a ton of damage, and if you want to go through the effort of actually poisoning the enemy, getting up into your Mega Art, and hopefully being able to survive long enough in these high level boss stages in the mines so you can actually nuke the boss, he will probably do a lot for you. And because of that, I would say he's still a solid unit for most people in the mines if you have him. But at the same time, if you can just use Joker Celia, just use her instead. So guys, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you all for coming out. Tell me down below what you guys think about Groitz. You guys think I'm going a little bit too hard on him? Do you guys think that he's fine just like he is? Or do you think he needs some type of buff to help him really be able to push these high level mines floors? You guys already heard my opinion. I'd love to hear y'all's opinion down below in the comment section. But thank you all again for coming out. It's been your boy OP, and last but not least, don't forget to drink water.